You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Good afternoon, Steelers Nation. It's The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson finally back stateside with you here for the next 2 hours on your 24/7 home of the black and the gold. And Matt, I think it's safe to say we have just a little bit to talk about today.
Got that right. Yeah. Short, condensed week. I mean, we're going to pack it in this week, and that's kind of what the trip was. Yeah, and it was glorious, to be honest with you. I mean, some of it wears on you in travel, and I'm not good at travel, to be honest. But, man, I just did a show with Rob and Mike Pursuta, and Pursuta said something along the lines of, I am so honored to be a part of this. You know, I'm like, and that's a great way to really look at it.
Great way to put it.
Yeah.
Great way to put it. I found myself thinking that a lot, too. Like, I think one of the things, there's a lot that we all love about the Steelers.
Yeah.
You kind of grew up on the tail end of the Steel Curtain era. In that glorious time period. I grew up.
I mean, it was shoved down my throat. You know, where if I was 10 years older, it wouldn't have been.
Exactly right. And I was in high school, freshman, when the Steelers got one for the thumb in Super Bowl 40. I was a senior when Santonio Holmes toe tap in the back of the end zone, Super Bowl 43. So we kind of were both like in the golden eras of it.
Yeah.
And so we know how much the Steelers mean to us, to this city, to
the generations, families, right?
I think the thing that I love about the Steelers is how much they mean to Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Everybody across the world knows Pittsburgh because of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right?
And that's special. Like, the Steelers brand is bigger than Pittsburgh's brand. Like, the Yankees aren't bigger than New York. You know, the Celtics aren't bigger than Boston.
Right.
Pittsburgh is big. The Steelers are bigger than Pittsburgh. And
it's funny, I'm just racking my brain. Like, Packers are bigger than Green Bay. Maybe the Canadians are bigger than Montreal. It's hard. There's not many, right?
There's not many of those. The Lakers are not bigger than LA.
Right,
like Hollywood and all that stuff is LA. You know, I was struck by that. Like, because of this football team that we all love so much, the Steelers or the Pittsburgh part of me is known across the world. That's pretty stinking cool. And, man, did we see that show up in Dublin, Ireland for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. I mean, I had one Uber driver that said, oh, you're with – I mean, it was obvious I was with the Steelers. I had Gary picked me up, and he asked something like, yeah, the Steelers are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? And he's like, what's Pittsburgh known for? I'm like –
football.
Well, the Steelers, football, steel.
Fries on our sandwiches and salads.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay. I mean, but there's so many cool experiences. Yeah.
It really was. And we'll get into some of those as we roll along, obviously. But the Steelers take down the Vikings 24-21 in the NFL's first ever regular season game in Dublin.
Not the last, I have a feeling.
And certainly will not be the last. It was first class the entire way. The atmosphere at Croke Park was unbelievable.
It really was.
And, it ended up, Matt, too, being maybe not for reasons that, as Steelers people and black and gold supporters that we wanted, but ended up being a heck of a football game, an exciting game, too.
More than it should have been down the stretch.
More than it should have been.
Because I really thought, unlike some other games this year, part of me was like, karma's going to get you. Because there were, some of those first 3 games, I'm like, I'm not sure the Steelers are the better team, but they got out of there with a win because they made a big play at the right time, and we've talked that to no end. And I'm sitting there going, the Steelers have pretty much dominated. Other than that first series, from that point on, both sides of the ball, I thought it was very clear who the better team was. And then you're sitting there at the end going, they may lose this. And
a little bit tighter than we wanted.
Yeah. And more so than any other game of the year. Could you imagine the ramifications going into the bye week and our trip home and, I mean, everything about it? I mean, and the importance to the Rooney family, and Mr. Rooney spoke to the team, I guess, on Wednesday. I'm thinking this could be catastrophic, and you're starting to hear skull chants and like, I'm tightening up here more than I have in a long time for a game. And then they took care of business, and they were the better team. And I think there's so many positives, football and life, to take away from this whole experience.
You are absolutely right. And they did, man. It felt like it felt like at a time they had a chance to blow Minnesota out in that game. And
I felt like they were for a while.
They certainly were. They were without a doubt for 80% of that game. They had the upper hand. They were
in control.
Better team. They were in control. And you're right. It's a regular season game. It's 1 out of 17. But this one meant a lot more for all those reasons that you just touched on. to have lost that moment, that opportunity would have been huge, would have been catastrophic, would have been something that they would have regretted forever.
Yeah.
But now it flips the other way. You and I both agree, yes, there's going to be plenty more NFL games in Dublin.
Oh, I think so. I can't wait till the Steelers actually get to be there as a road team, so they don't have to sacrifice a home team, because it's going to be a home game.
Absolutely, absolutely. All the details, all the minutia that we'll get in today here as we roll along. 10 years from now, when there's more NFL games in Dublin, they're going to show the first highlights of that one.
Yeah.
20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, 80 years from now.
Yeah.
When you and I are both long gone, it'll be, remember that every time there's a game in Dublin, they'll roll that 60-second highlight package of the first time the NFL ever played here. It was the Steelers and the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see DK Metcalf going 80 yards, and you'll see the TJ Watt interception
a
in the
huge
punt.
sack yeah.
Time capsule stuff that is going to last forever.
Yeah, it's funny because we opened the show saying, the eras we both grew up in, what the Steelers mean to us. I'm sure there's a lot of folks in Dublin and Ireland that this was their first exposure. The first game I truly remember was the Steelers beating the Rams in the Super Bowl. Like, I kind of knew what a cornerback was and how interceptions are bad, things like that. I was old enough to really understand a little bit. But now I'm sure these people, and maybe subsequently their kids and grandkids, will remember, I remember when I was exposed to this,
Yes.
Which is cool, which is
So
the whole
cool.
purpose of all this NFL thing. I mean, this isn't a Steeler thing. That's an NFL expanding their wings.
And they've done it so well, and we see it pay off in London and Germany and Mexico and Brazil and all these different places. And the Sunday Night Madness at Fitzsimons, you had gone back, smartfully so, you had gone back to the hotel at this point. You just wanted to watch some football.
To watch games, yeah.
We had kind of all had enough of the chaos, but I had to drop off some equipment there to the DVE morning show. Before I left,
and they were recording Sunday night.
They
right?
were, they were recording their Monday morning show on Sunday night.
Yeah.
I met a Irish guy from Cork. His name was Terry. He's a Bengals fan, but he had come to Dublin for the game because it was his first chance to see NFL in his lifetime.
I'm sure they went to any NFL game close.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And he came up and was just chatting with us briefly. Very nice guy. But he said something that I thought was great. He said, I want to thank you for something, and I got a bone to pick with you for something. And
cool.
I said, okay. He said, I want to thank you guys for bringing football to this island, to Ireland. What this meant today for people like me who love the NFL and want to see it grow in places like here.
Right. Which you and I had very little to do with, but you're welcome.
Exactly right, but thank you. He said, the bone I have to pick, though, is he said, you know how many Steelers fans you all just created here in Ireland? I'm never going to hear the end of it.
He's a Bengal guy, right. And times are tough for the Bengals. No one's jumping on that ship right now. That's for sure, right.
Hey, sorry, buddy. We do what we can. That we tend to have this effect
force
on
of nature,
on places that we go. But Matt, it was all well. That ends well for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there are a million different things that we want to get into. We'll continue to tell stories as we kind of analyze and do the X's and O's. Does the conversation, though, the 60 minutes on the field there at Croke Park, does it start with Aaron Rodgers and another incredibly efficient, tidy, buttoned-up performance from the signal caller?
Yeah. I mean, a couple bullet points to me that are the headlines are both sides of this of the coaching staff changed things.
I thought did well.
It did, and positive results and some things we've kind of called for and brought up in the past. Not that they're listening, but I approve of it, even if it wouldn't have worked. I liked some of the coaching changes they made. They ran the football. I mean, that's a bullet point in itself. Great. Defense continues to really shape into, we got laughed at a little bit after the first couple of weeks. You guys thought this might be a top 5 defense. And I'm like, and that was a hard limb to still be walking out on. And now I'm feeling a little better that this defense has a chance to be really good. But I'm glad you brought up Rodgers first, because you look at his stat line. I see you have the box score open. I don't even care what it was.
18 of 22, 200 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, but he brought so much more. I mean, he's such an elevator. And whatever ingredients you give him, he makes a really good stew, and I think that is really impressive. From the neck up, I think he's so good. And a couple things, yes, it's him versus Flores, sure. But Rodgers even said before the game, I have all the respect in the world for Flores, but he's not playing this game. It's me versus Harrison Smith. And he and Harrison Smith have done battle in the NFC North for a decade. They know each other really, really well. And it's him versus the players. And knowing where to go with the football. And even if you don't know the play calls or know much about the game, it's so obvious that they get out of bad situations pre-snap and at least put themselves in areas to succeed, even if their guard can't block that defensive tackle or your tight end can't get open or whatever. Even if you don't have a ton of matchups in your favor, I'm at least going to the poker table playing the right odds. You know what I mean? I might not get the right card dealt to me that time, but if I at least don't do dumb stuff and hit on 20 at the blackjack table, you got a better chance to win. You know, you're always going to at least be in the right situation, know where the most dangerous rushers are, where the part in the run play that's most likely to blow you up. And then I haven't got a chance to, my schedule's weird. All of our schedules are weird in travel and, jet lag and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't really studied the rewatch yet. But watching it from the stadium, which is also odd for me, I don't watch games live, it sure seemed like Rodgers was so good pre-snap. Not only his charisma and command and wisdom, but it seemed like he waited really late into the down a lot. The Vikings are doing all their stuff, and he's just kind of holding his water and watching, and I'm going to snap this thing late after you've pretty much shown me your hand, to use another card in analogy. Or sometimes I'm just going to speed it up and not let you do that. You know, like I'm going to be, you do all your stuff. And I made a joke when I did that show with Mike and Rob. It's like Indiana Jones. You know, the swordsman comes out and he's, and then Indy just shoots him. You know, like you can do all your stuff. That's great. But in the end, you've shown me everything, and I'm just going to get myself in the right position. And if my guys make plays, more often than not, the dice are going to come up in my favor, you know?
And his guys made some plays. DK Metcalf, certainly. Kenneth Gainwell, certainly. But I think that's spot on by you. There was a, how do I want to put this? Almost like, I think it was the most vanilla we've seen Brian Flores' defense in Minnesota since he got, maybe the most neutered we've seen a Brian Flores defense since, he really got that thing humming in Minnesota last year.
Yep.
Because
I think a lot of it's Rodgers.
A lot of his game brain. His game brain, man. And I think that DK Metcalf touchdown was a perfect example. Had DK line up in the slot, got the right matchup for him. Boom, here we go. Quick hitter, get that thing out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times that we saw him checking the things at the line of scrimmage, it ended up being the more, again, like you said, no one's perfect. It's not always going to work.
Of course not.
It's playing the high odds at the casino or at the blackjack table or at the roulette wheel or whatever it may be. And he just has such savvy for that, obviously, as a guy who has been in the league for 2 decades and is going to walk into the Hall of Fame one day and, has seen a lot of elements. Obviously not Brian Flores in Minnesota, but has seen some elements of that defense throughout his career.
But he's getting more comfortable with his teammates, and I can trust this guy to run this route, and I know he's going to make the right adjustment. And, okay, maybe this guy's going to struggle with this block. Okay, I know that that's where my danger areas are. I'm going to roll away from it or get it out or whatever. His command is off the charts right now.
It's off the charts right now, and you know what really helps that? Is when you're running the football like they were finally.
Yeah.
That gets when you're going over 5 yards a clip for Kenneth Gainwell. When's the last time we could say that about a Steelers running back? When you're going over 5 yards a clip, it makes Aaron Rodgers' ability and his opportunity to do all that line of scrimmage stuff even greater.
Yes.
Because you're not nearly as predictable as an offense. They have to respect every element of that offense. You throw in the explosive plays in the pass game. You throw in a lot more Darnell Washington. I'm sure you want to talk about that more in depth at some point than we've seen. You bring in Anderson. You go big. You go beef package. Extra eligible, extra down lineman, more than we've seen so far. When all those things come together and you've got the ultimate conductor that Aaron Rodgers is at this stage of the game, like he certainly doesn't have the athleticism. Although, how about that run and that fumble that bounced right to Broderick Jones? My goodness.
Like you get a bounce too. Yeah.
But he doesn't have the athleticism and mobility that he used to have. But his game brain is as good as it's ever been. His experience as it's ever been. When all those elements start clicking around him, then he can really show that stuff off because he's not playing with one hand tied behind his back. He's got everything available in the arsenal.
Stick with the poker analogy. I feel like Rodgers hasn't had great cards dealt to him up to this point. He's had to bluff himself through some pots. Like, boy, I squeaked that one out, but I didn't have the best cards at the table, And now all of a sudden, I got dealt an ace. Like, I haven't seen an ace in a long time. Like, ooh, I got
face cards coming here.
I got a pair dealt to me. Like, okay, I can work with that. I'm starting to understand what I can get out of this team. And before it was and there's still some smoke and mirrors, but that every team's dealing with some of that too. Like, I don't think they protect particularly well. The protection still worries me. I mean, they only threw 3 passes past 10 yards down the line, down the field.
That passing chart is telling.
It's crazy, and I think a lot of it's just because they don't trust the protection, and I also think they've kept a little bit in their back pocket that if people start creeping up and really keying on the quick hitters, they will max protect and throw some bombs. I mean, I don't think they need to throw Russell Wilson moonball after moonball, but I wouldn't mind 2 a game. I mean, 3 passes past 10 yards down the field is crazy.
Crazy. But
again, it's manipulating what you've been dealt.
Absolutely. And again, he does that as well as anybody. And I thought just an outstanding performance for Kenneth Gainwell as well too.
Oh man.
He had the 99 yards rushing. Bummer. Just get him one more there to get him to the century mark. But you add in 35 yards on 6 receptions in the pass game as well too for well over 100 yards all purpose for him. We talked a lot about that Jaylen Warren what-if scenario leading up to the game.
I was a little worried.
I was pretty worried.
Very worried, yeah.
I mean, and, we talked about, do you throw Caleb Johnson into the fire? Do you throw him into the deep end and see if he can swim? They didn't have to because Kenneth Gainwell, and, hey, maybe he's a little beat up. Maybe you used him a little bit more than you wanted to. 25 touches in total for Kenneth Gainwell is a lot.
Yeah.
But you got the bye week, rest him up. The timing for that was perfect, and he delivered.
100%. So I think I go out of my way to admit when I'm wrong, but on the pregame show, I'm standing there because we're doing it live with Jerry and Mike, and they asked me, so how do you handle the running back situation? Warren's not going to go. And I think the first words out of my mouth are, well, you can't give Gainwell the whole workload. Flat out wrong. But because I think you can once or maybe one other time, because in this instance, I only need you for 1 day, Kenneth, and you get an extra week. I didn't even think about the bye. You get that whole time to rest your body. You're not used to this workload. You're not built like Jerome. You're not built like Saquon. But I need you for 1 day, and then you can put your feet up for 2 weeks, and then we'll readdress it at the time. Because I thought, as you mentioned, we brought it up at the time. It's like, well, you drafted Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. Maybe things haven't been perfect at this point. You throw the young kid in the pool, deep end. Either you're swim or you're going to sink, buddy. And they didn't have to even go down that road,
No, they didn't. And they, got a fair contribution, I think, from Caleb Johnson. 6 carries, 22 yards.
Okay, at least he showed up.
He had that really nice 9-yard run at the one point as well, too.
I think they feel better about him today than they did 3 days ago, so that's something.
It's probably
the
best we've felt about him throughout this entire process. He
Sure.
did what they asked him to do. He was effective in those moments. And again, I think for as much as the conversation with the offense starts with Aaron Rodgers, a lot of other guys deserve credit in that.
Yeah.
I think Washington is one of those. Anderson's one of those. Let's talk about that a little bit more because I don't want to shortchange that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about some beef.
Oh.
Maybe some corned beef.
Oh.
Nice.
Nice.
Irish edition there when we return on the other side and keep this conversation going. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on The Drive here as we continue to discuss our trip to Dublin, all things Ireland, and of course the most important aspect, a 24-21 win for your Pittsburgh Steelers as they move to 3-1. And hey, don't look now, but sitting in a pretty good position compared to the rest of the AFC North. We'll discuss that.
Division's in trouble.
We'll discuss
at the
that
moment.
a little bit more in hour number 2, but you're right. I mean, the Browns have always been in trouble. I think we knew that, but the Bengals, the Ravens, hanging on by a thread as well. I'm
not digging a grave yet for Baltimore, but those Ohio teams, you can stick a fork in those.
You absolutely can. Like they're a nice corned beef or a nice fish and chips over there. And speaking of the beef, Matt, I tell you what, I thought a big part of the Steelers' success in the run game, the by far best performance in that department that we've seen through the first 4 games of the season, Yeah, the starting 5 offensive line deserves some credit for, I think, having their best performance. But I loved the usage that we saw of Washington. I mean, he played more snaps than DK Metcalf, I believe, correct?
He led all skill position players in snaps.
So,
I mean, always quarterback and no lineman.
You take Aaron Rodgers and the offensive line out of the equation.
He was number one.
I don't think any of us expected that going into Dublin.
No, that's even more extreme than I've called for. But I've been on this soapbox now for about 2 years that this league is full of freaks and athletic marvels, and there's no question. But sometimes there's outliers. He's an outlier. And teams have to hate playing against him. They have to. I mean, there's like D linemen bouncing off him with the ball in his hands and his ability to block. And people have even asked me today, and they've asked me for a year, if Broderick Jones doesn't work out, just make him a left tackle. I'm like, no, but you could. You know what I mean? Like that's an option, which is insanity. You can't do that with any other tight end.
I want him running down the field and punishing people.
Right. I'm just saying, use them as you use them and do it more. Now, I think there's a lot of things at play here. Is first the negative. It sure looked to me, and I haven't rewatched it, but Freiermuth was the culprit on the blocked field goal.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I think he's in the doghouse right now. I mean, he played 15 snaps. He was near the bottom.
Less than Connor Hayward, correct?
Less than Connor Hayward.
So he was the 4th of the 4 tight ends.
Right.
I don't think any of us thought we'd see that. I don't care how you feel about Pat Freiermuth. I don't think anybody thought we would see that this year.
No. I think Washington's role spiked. Anderson's role spiked. Call him an extra tight end, whatever. So someone's going to suffer. We know that. But I think there's more to that story with Freiermuth, and he's going to have to dig himself out of De Casa Lepero, you know what I mean, the house of the dog. And so we'll see where he's at over the bye week. But he needs to bring more to the table, period. And they demoted him. I think that's flat out what happened. So not everything's roses. If someone's going to step up, then someone else loses playing time. But Washington is a total freak, and teams are going to hate playing against him. And you plug him next to Anderson, often on the same side of the line of scrimmage, it's back with my Larry with Pitt example. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even have to tell it. There's no deception here. We're throwing the fade to number one at Pitt, and we're going to run right behind those guys and whoever else there. And if you stop us, great. But you're not. It's going to wear on you.
It absolutely
it's going to wear on you.
And it is one thing when you face those type of big athletic tight ends who are just using the run game, and you got that coming at you. It's a whole other thing when he's going for 7 yards of reception, and you have to respect that element of his game as well, too, because not only can he run through you, he can run past you.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare matchup, like you kind of alluded to. That guy's on the field, and defensive coordinators, it drives them nuts.
I don't know what to do with that.
Matchup they don't want to see. It's
right.
This might be an extreme example, and maybe it's because we were in Europe, but like, do you know Jokic, the basketball player for the Denver Nuggets? And TV's our video producer's wearing a Nuggets hat today.
Coincidentally, yes. So I only really watch NBA playoffs, and
same.
He blows me away.
And he is probably the best basketball player in the world. So again, a little bit of an but
he's so unique.
He can run past you. He can run through you. He's a center, but he can dribble like a point guard. He can step. He can dunk on you like Shaq. He can step out and knock down a three.
He's the best passing big man I've ever seen.
He is truly one of the unique unicorns in NBA history.
Yes.
Just the athleticism and the shooting ability that he has at his size. Mm-hmm. There's like some, and again, he might be probably
he's
the best
an MVP
basketball
guy.
Right?
Oh
my gosh, he's an MVP, league MVP, finals MVP. Like I said, one of the true all-time greats. Might be, probably him or Dirk Nowitzki are the best European basketball players ever.
Yeah.
But there's some of
he's
that.
a multiple-time MVP, I think, right?
I believe,
right?
I know he's won at least one, but I think multiple. He's won an NBA championship.
Sure.
He's an all-timer.
But he's an outlier, is your point.
He is an outlier that you don't see somebody like this very often. It's, hey, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow are matchup nightmares.
Sure.
But there's a lot of great quarterbacks and wide receivers around the NFL.
And defense coordinators have dealt with other awesome receivers and awesome quarterbacks.
Lamar and Derrick Henry are matchup nightmares, but there's a lot of great athletic quarterbacks and running backs across the NFL. Mm-hmm. Hurts and Barkley. There's not a lot of guys that can do what Darnell Washington can do.
He's not as valuable as any of the names we've mentioned.
No, absolutely not.
But he's an outlier.
He's an outlier. Yep. That's the word. And I think we're starting to see those ingredients come together for him in the offense.
There's a few dudes, and not that I'm smarter than their staff or anything like that, but I've been lobbying for several weeks and with Washington, frankly, for about 2 years. I don't know how you take like Washington and Herbig off the field. They're too good. I mean, teams say thank you when you take them off the field. And it almost doesn't even, that's not a knock on Highsmith or Freiermuth or Johnu, but they're a nightmare to play
they're
against.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
Something good's going to happen when they're on the field.
If, this happened to like Russell Wilson whenever he was a rookie. They had drafted Flynn to be the starter. They drafted this young, short dude out of NC State in the 3rd round. And every time they put something on his plate, Pete Carroll was like, he devoured it. So he put more on his plate, devoured it. Put more on his plate, devoured it. Like I had to make him a starter. To me, that's like Washington and Herbig. It's like, okay, we saw limited snaps. Now we'll give you 18. Now we'll give you 20. Now you'll be the skill position player that has the most. And every step of the way, you've translated it to like, oh, this isn't sustainable. Herbig can't get that many sacks per pass rush attempt. Well, maybe let's see.
Right?
Let's see.
Let's see.
Right.
And he's still doing it as well too. We will talk about. I know. We'll talk about the defense at some point, but you're absolutely right. And then, like Matt, though, when you combine that with Darnell, his skill set, his outlier nature, playing that many snaps, you bring Spencer Anderson into the fold as well too.
Yeah,
that's a nightmare. And I think you and I again. The unique tight end usage and what they have there, and as you said, Anderson's kind of part of that equation when he comes in as the extra big man in a way too.
I mean, he's an eligible receiver, right?
That's the Steelers' matchup calling card. I think that we've been looking for all season, and we finally saw come to fruition on Sunday.
I thought it would be 13 personnel.
Yes,
that they would be way higher than the league average in 13 personnel, and that's not going away. And that would be their bread and butter, and Washington would be heavily involved in that. And we've talked about this for several weeks now, you and I, that if you look at the best offenses in the league, almost all of them have something that's different than the others. I mean, like last year, the Bills were by far the most 6 offensive line. Ravens with Ricard.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just weird stuff that not only are you super talented with Lamar and Allen and all their stars, but boy, they have something else I also have to prepare for during the week, which sucks. Like I got to spend all this time dealing with what do we do with Darnell Washington? Now, what do we do with him and Anderson on the field together? How do we practice that? We haven't dealt with that. Or teams that use a true fullback. That's hard. It's not the usual week of prep. Like as great as the Burrow-led Bengals are with 3 wide, I at least see that every week. You know what I mean? They're better at it than most teams, but it's not unique. It's not an outlier. And I thought 13 personnel would be their outlier. And then you mix in a wide receiver who's the biggest in the league, too. Like, he's a monster, too, But if this is it, okay, take it and run with it, literally. I mean, I didn't mean it to be that parallel, but take it and run with it, right?
Take it and run with it. Sometimes, sometimes you need a game like that, I think, like, as you kind of alluded to, like putting more on guys' plates, and we're going to give you this, and you handle it well, and then we'll go here. I think there was a natural progression to get to that point.
Yeah.
If you would have tried playing Washington that many snaps in week 1, tried playing Anderson that many snaps in week 1, that's not to say like they should have been doing this the whole time. It takes time to come together, but that to me is about as encouraging as I think pretty much anything we mentioned. And like I said, I think there's a very direct correlation that you can draw between that and the Steelers having their most successful ground game of the season so far.
Yes. Now, Anderson isn't close to an outlier like Washington, but I do want to give him credit, too, because almost every time you see a 6th offensive lineman on the field, it's a tackle. Interior guys aren't used to having all this space over here that I got to, oh, no, there's a Watt or a Garrett. I don't know how to do that. I'm a close quarter type of guy. But Anderson is a very smart, and especially early in his Steeler career, versatile player. I mean, now he's really settled in at guard. He might be Isaac's, successor next year. He played a ton with the first team as the left guard. But if you remember, when he came out of school, he flirted at right tackle. He played a lot of center. Those first two training camps, he played every position but left tackle. So he might be more, when I looked at if they ever go 6 offensive linemen, do you want it to be a Dylan Cook or Calvin Anderson? Okay, I'd prefer it was a 3rd-round pick that has, tackle-type guy. But this dude has played farther away from the ball. So give him credit to be able to do it, because most guards don't get asked to do that.
No, that's very well said by you. He is not he's played every position on the offensive line at some point in his career, but he is not a tackle by trade, and that can be a tall ask for some, but he is he's taken what they put on his plate, and he has handled it certainly very well. Got to talk about some of these elements of the defense as well, too. Herbig, T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, big game from a lot of guys on the defensive side of the football. We'll do that when we return on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Closing down the first hour of The Drive here, we're going to talk to our buddy Chris Adamski of the Trib in about 10 minutes, get his thoughts on the Steelers' victory over the Vikings. Matt, the offense, we've kind of spent most of the start of the first hour there, and they certainly deserve plenty of credit, but so does this Steelers defense. The sacks were there, the TFLs were there, the big impactful splash plays were there. Against an offense that has a lot of superstars, Justin Jefferson got his, and that's to be expected. He does that against everybody. But other than
he's
that,
pretty good.
He is pretty stinking good. He's one of. There's every once in a while I'm like very excited to see somebody in person
live. Yeah,
like I remember a couple years ago when Tom Brady, came to Acrisure Stadium.
You'll tell your grandkids about it.
You're like, this is great. Last year on Christmas, being able to see Mahomes with my own two eyes.
Sure.
Those types of things. Even though I've seen him a couple times, I'm looking forward to seeing Josh Allen here again, a Thanksgiving weekend. He's one of those guys. He got his. That's to be expected. But I thought across the board, they kept the lid on everything else. They frustrated that Vikings offense the whole day.
Yeah.
And you take that busted coverage out of the equation, and it's hard to find a lot of negative with what the defense did.
1,000%. I thought it was definitely their best performance. And you touched on it, but my favorite part about the defense was they took the fight to them. They were highly aggressive with blitz and, okay, maybe you are going to beat us once in a while with single coverage or whatever, but we're going to come after you. And they got some things that went their way. O'Neal only lasted like 10 or 11 snaps, a really good right tackle. And the poor guy that I've been making fun of all week that was stuck at left tackle, Skull, had to go in, who's bad.
As soon as that happened, you tapped me on the shoulder and you were like, watch this.
Yeah, watch
TJ
the target on this
Herbig
guy.
are about to feast.
Yeah, and then they did smart things, though, too. Like, the whole planet knew, and Watt gets this all the time, but Skull's going to need help on every pass rush snap against Watt. And O'Neal would have needed plenty. Every right tackle needs some, but now you have to.
But O'Neal's a two-time Pro Bowler and very good player.
Yeah, and a very good player. So what does the Steelers do? They counter, and they put Queen or a linebacker basically sidecarring or right behind Watt, knowing and blitzing them. Like they didn't do a lot of that in the past where Watt's going to command a double. So I'm going to throw someone else at your front side, and someone like Queen, I thought they weaponized him really, really well. And I think he's really starting to come into his own.
Best game of the season by far.
Flying
for him.
Around the field, attacking quarterbacks, a lot of blitz. And Mike Pursuit had a good point. He thought that maybe they would regret today, in hindsight, not having Ramsey follow Jefferson more. I think that's a good point. And there were times where they left the back end a little exposed due to blitz. Mm-hmm. But another guy that I think we have to call out is Elliott.
Great to see him.
And I said this earlier, but Dale and I used to do our list of who are most important Steelers. And if we were to just do the defense, rank them 1 to 15, the guys that are out there a lot. If I did that a month ago or in training camp, Elliott with a lot of dudes ahead of him because they're Watt and Hayward and Ramsey.
Hall of Fame, Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to put them, they have to be high. But Elliott would have been 7th or 8th, or, with all due respect. It's just a lot of guys are ahead of you.
Sure.
He might be like 3rd or 4th now, because his absence was so felt when he was gone. Communication errors, and they weaponize him too. Like he comes in on that blitz, gets, flipped over, just attacking downhill, attacking the run, putting himself in danger without any, playing fast, aggressive. So his presence was felt in a big way. Herbig's a star in the making.
He's inevitable, man.
Yeah, exactly.
He is Thanos. He is inevitable.
Yes, and now the D-line rotation is where it should be and how it thought it would be. With all respect to Loudermilk, you can't play guys like that as many snaps as he did at the beginning of the season.
How about Keanu Benton?
And
nice to see you, too.
Right.
Doing the Conor McGregor strut down the field a couple times.
That's what I was going to mention is, Harmon's the one that everyone's noticing his ripple effect on the other D linemen. But Benton should send him a fruit basket. I'm getting a lot less doubles. Now I'm upfield. I'm being used a lot more in nickel. I'm not asked to play 80% of the snaps anymore. I'm getting my talents maximized. And you still have Ekwale and Black that are 4th and 5th on the list, but I think their best is yet to come too. You're going to see more of those guys. So the things are really shaping into form, but it starts with their aggression and their play calling and coming after people and, dictating the flow of the game.
You know who else deserves some roses? Is Terrell Austin.
Exactly.
A lot of people spent a lot of time this week reminding everyone how ticked off they were that we let Brian Flores get out of the building, and you should have kept him over Terrell Austin. And that is not a knock on Brian Flores at all. He is phenomenal.
No, I love him.
But TA had a game plan, and boy, did they execute it. Matt, I don't know if you saw this stat. I like it when every once in a while I can do this. All right, hit you with something that I hope you haven't seen yet.
I might just cheat and be like, oh yeah, I saw that.
You and I were, not far away from each other on the plane, and you were grinding out the numbers and some of the stuff the whole flight home across the Atlantic, like you always do. The Vikings went under center 9 plays.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see this yet?
I think so, I know the play action stuff I saw too.
The Vikings went under center 9 plays. The Steelers, had in those 9 plays 3 sacks, 1 throwaway, 3 incomplete passes, 1 completion. The Steelers on those 9 plays under center blitzed on all but 1. So there was a clear cut when they go under center. When they go under center, that's when the Vikings like to run a lot of play action. When they go under center, we are going to blow this thing up. Now, as you mentioned, the Vikings being down their starting left guard and losing their starting right tackle just a dozen plays into the game.
Oh, some things went their way. Right.
Certainly aids the Steelers in that regard. But they had a game plan every time Minnesota went under center, and they blew it up every time Minnesota went under center. And we talked a lot about how, Aaron Rodgers has been playing with some bad hands the first 3 weeks of the season. They forced Carson Wentz and that Minnesota offense into some bad hands all afternoon. Yeah,
I'm glad you went down that road because I saw similar numbers, not exactly what you were talking about, but a O'Connell staple that was obviously scouted by the Steeler defensive staff, and especially with Wentz because he likes to do this stuff too. You could at least have more tendencies with Wentz, who made some plays but also didn't help causes at times too. He'll hold the ball and he likes to take bad sacks. But they want, some of the O'Connell bread and butter stuff, to your point, is play action under center, and they're good at it, and they run it well. And they ran 11 play action dropbacks in this game, which is a big number. That's 5th most in the league last week. And they pressured him on 6 out of the 11. They were really keying on him and sacked him twice on those 11 play action. And on the other 9, he didn't get sacked. He was 4 of 8 for 26 yards. And they averaged minus 5.3 yards per attempt on play action. Whew. Like we've talked about how play action's a cheat code. Everyone, and this is still true, not in this game for the Vikes, but across the league, when you run play action, you almost average like a yard per play more. In this case, they were minus 5.3 when they did
like their EPA
play action.
Was going down when they ran play action.
Right. They went backwards when they ran play action by 5 yards per snap, which is taking away, making you left-handed. We just chopped off your right arm. You know what I mean? This is what you want to do, especially with a quarterback that isn't an elite player at this point. They have quarterback issues.
You make a guy like that play left-handed, you're going to get a lot of sacks, you're going to get a lot of TFLs, you're going to get a lot of turnovers.
Yep.
They got all those things, and they were much needed.
And I know Wentz put up big numbers, and he did make some plays. He made some throws. The Addison 81-yarder skews things a little, of course. And Jefferson was wide open a lot. He's awesome. I
know he has not had the best start to the season, or certainly the one that I think we were all hopeful and wanted him to have, but huge credit to Peyton Wilson on that play.
Massive.
That ends up.
I think he's coming into his own a lot.
That ends up taking an extra minute off the clock. It reminded me of a very similar play. He made a same type of play, Matt. I'm talking like one of those, if you put the cut-ups next to each other, it looks like the same play when he was at NC State against Notre Dame, I think it was, where NC State had a busted coverage. 80 yards down the sideline, this Notre Dame receiver goes streaking, and he caught him inside the 5.
Okay.
And
wide receivers.
Wide receivers.
These aren't like
not
Darnell Washington
ends,
rumbling down the field.
Exactly
right.
He caught this Notre Dame wide receiver. It was the fastest GPS next-gen stats that a linebacker had in the entire in Division I college football that year, his senior year. He hit like 23 miles an hour on the radar, flying.
Right.
Stopped this Notre Dame wide receiver. NC State ended up holding him to a field goal. It was a massive moment in the game. They ended up scoring, but on 4th down, they had to run 4 more plays, another minute off the clock. That was huge.
It was huge. I'm sure people could be like, you guys are making a lot out of this. They end up scoring a minute later. They did, but I think in hindsight, that's probably the difference of, do we kick an onside kick, which never work out in this league anymore, or are we kicking it away? If I get 1 more minute, I'm kicking it away, and I'll take my chances, and you force the Steelers to make a couple first down, or to actually execute, and then you're still in it. When you get to onside kick time, it's just that. That's the last string.
Desperado.
They don't work at all anymore.
No, they don't, and they got to do it twice due to a timeout there. But Roman Wilson with the true hands both times. Real quick on Roman Wilson, because Mike pointed this out in the earlier show he did. He's like, we could be worried about Roman Wilson. I'm sure he's going to come up a lot with this Calvin Austin injury, but the fact that he's out there on Hans' team, they trust him. There's some certain trust factor there.
I'm not saying he's going to step up like a lot of these guys have, and I think that's another theme we could talk about these next 2 weeks. Boy, Omar's done a great job building depth, and a lot of these dudes, like Gainwell, is a perfect example, have really stepped up when asked upon. I don't know if Wilson's next or not, Roman, but the fact that he's out there on Hans' team, they trust him. That's
a good call.
Just store that away.
That's a very good call by you. Maybe something that we'll go back to at some point. And that would be a good conversation during the bye week next week, because obviously we'll have plenty of time to kind of hit a reset button, if you will, and take a look at some things, from a more 30,000-foot view.
A bunch of people have asked me about, should they go trade for a wide receiver, and maybe, and we'll see. But we'll talk about it in these next couple of days or next week.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And we'll get early next week. We should get a more concrete update on Calvin Austin as well too, when Mike Tomlin meets with the media,
and hopefully get like the Porter back and Warren back, and right,
absolutely massive. Alex Highsmith not too far either.
Oh, by the way.
Hour in the books, another hour to go. Our buddy Chris Adamski will join us to kick off hour number 2. We'll get his thoughts on the dub in Dublin when we return. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Good evening, Steeler Nation. How we doing? Well, that's good. Us too. It is hour number 2 here of The Drive. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson on a Victory Tuesday as we are back from across the Emerald Isle. We've been smiling. Irish eyes are always smiling, right? Isn't that something that they say, man?
Indeed.
I think something like that, and certainly the case after a 24-21 win. Joining us now to discuss, he covers the Steelers for the Trib. He also co-hosts the Steelers Blitz with our buddy Tom Opferman. It is Chris Adamski. Buzz, thank you for taking the time as always. I just got to ask you maybe bigger picture here to get started. I think on both sides of the ball, a lot to be encouraged by in that win. I think the Steelers' most encouraging performance here through the month of September. What's kind of at the top of that list for you? What are you feeling the best about here, about 48 hours after that victory over the Vikings?
Yeah, I just think overall, obviously, the total yardage numbers aren't great. The yardage differential, they've not gained in every game. There's a lot of things if you want to look at a negative aspect of being 3-1, if that's possible. But I just mean in terms of if you want to express the point, it's not sustainable. I understand that. I do think, though, you can take all that and still see that in almost every area that their problems are, or they haven't been as good as they need to be, the arrow's been pointing up. I can think from week 1 to week 4, you can almost look it up and down the line, and they're coming off their best one game at all those areas. And I can go through a couple, but and then even over a 2-game span, you could say they've probably been the best. For instance, the defense being this, it happens once, if you get a 5-turnover game in, week 8 and the rest of the season's blah in terms of splash and all that, okay, or you get a 5-sack game in the middle of the season and then the next game you're not. But to do both of those things kind of, both the turnovers, remember they had 2 to call it back in this span. They almost had 9 turnovers or 9 takeaways. And the 11 sacks, that's over a 2-game span now. It's a little bit bigger of a sample size. You can believe that's sustainable, especially with the personnel on this defense, that these are all big names with resumes, and all of them, up and down the list, a whole bunch of playmakers have a history of that. And so there's reason to believe that that's sustainable. This wasn't a blip. It wasn't, I get all that, like the fumble luck. They recovered all those fumbles against the Patriots. It won't happen every week. And I get you can't depend on all the takeaways. But there are reasons that the running game is another one where you come off the best performance. The offensive line was as best as it was in week 4. I think there's a lot of things that not only are they 3-1, but a lot of their warts look better right now than they did after week 1 or week 2 or week 3. Well, let's put it that way. I think they've their arrow has been pointing up in a lot of ways that they need to be pointing up, quite frankly, if they want to get where they want to go by the end of the season.
So I'm glad you mentioned it because we hadn't yet, but there were a couple near turnovers that didn't go their way. Yeah, I mean, one of them was a scoop and score that could have been ridiculously massive. I'm glad you brought those things up because we went a whole hour without mentioning it. Chris, I assume you agree, but I really want to hear your opinion. Rodgers' value to this team thus far way exceeds his stat line.
Yeah, and you know what? I get it. Like, Russell Wilson is a borderline Hall of Famer too, and obviously Ben was here and things like that, and there was a respect there, of course. But it's just, I've been really surprised, especially, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I fall in the trap from afar, Aaron Rodgers and how things went with the Jets and some of the things and all that, and I'm kind of wondering, oh boy, how's this going to go? How's he going to be? And I've been pretty much blown away in terms of his demeanor in the room, in terms of his way he interacts with his teammates. The way he kind of just, he's 41 years old. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been in the league for 21 years. Literally everybody in that locker room pretty much grew up watching him play as a kid. So have that fandom to him, but at the same time, he bonds with everybody in that sense. So there's that intangible, whatever that's worth or not, we can debate how much it's worth. I think it's worth something.
I think it's worth a lot.
And then, yeah, okay. And as, especially from your quarterback. And then you look at, and again, you might take the overall stats or whatever, and I know the ball's not going downfield a lot. First of all, I would say, and it's going to be another whole other, I don't want to get in this tangent a lot here, but throwing guys open in terms of, yes, these short passes, but there's a skill and an art. I was talking to Tom Arth about that today at length, actually, about the skill of a quarterback. And yeah, everybody talks about deep ball and accuracy, whatever, but the nuance of throwing a guy open or throwing him to the right spot so that he can get that yak that especially DK showed a lot of this year. But just in terms, if you break it down, the splits of fourth quarter, the splits of behind, those types of things, the passing and those, the just even some of the recognizing some things that you've heard them, the Steelers talk about and coaches talk about, and Rodgers and the offense and often the players talk about, that he's recognizing on defense is that intangible aspect of it. And by the way, he's also, maybe it's not, what it was in 15 years ago or 10 years ago, but you still see that arm talent like every game, 1 or 2 throws, like, oh my God, look at that. So yeah, there's been a lot of ways for sure. You can go down the list of what he's brought to the team.
Chris, I wanted to ask you about the role, the usage of Pat Freiermuth on Sunday. Just 15 snaps for him, less than a fourth out of the 4 tight ends, less than Connor Hayward. Is that just as simple as, on the surface, him being in the doghouse for a missed assignment on that blocked field goal? Or do you think there even could be something deeper there with just them maybe not being pleased with his performance to this point through 4 games?
I think in terms of, and I tried to get to the bottom of this a little bit today, and I got a little success. Again, we had the assistant coaches today. We only get them, once during the regular season. So even talking to Alfredo Roberts is always a joy. We talked to Danny Smith today, which is, makes anybody's day a reality. But, but just, try. And here's my take, and I'm not 100%, got this from whoever I talked to today here, and maybe, so this is kind of speculation on my part, but I just think that the game plan, well, I know for sure the game plan in part was to use the jumbo, use the big, right? And that obvious, and then I think when it started working, they went to it even more. And remember, Johnny Smith didn't play that much either. Now, he might have been hurt a little bit. That might be part of it. But Smith played about as little as Freiermuth did. And you saw Darnell Washington play a career high in snaps. He played, 90-some% of the Steelers snaps. And you saw a fullback. You saw Spencer Anderson played 17 snaps as a jumbo. So you played all the big and you were running the ball and you were winning the game. So they stuck with it. I think it's probably as simple as that. Now, and there might be another game where whatever, they're behind, a different team, different personnel on the other team. There's a lot of different things you could say about it. I don't think it was I didn't get the impression it was a benching or whatever after the whiff on the field goal attempt there. I don't think it was that. Obviously, I think everybody envisions Freiermuth would have more catches at this point, more production at this point of the season than he has. So, yes, that maybe that is something in terms of the macro view of it. But I think this is in terms of the low snaps you played this game. I think it was just sort of a one game where there was one part game plan and one part what was really working, and they were going to stick with it.
So maybe this is a tough question. I mean, do you think if you were to bet on what tight end coming out of the bye leads the team in snaps the rest of the way, do you still think that's up for debate, or do you think Washington has gained that? Is this just a one-time usage for Washington? I know we don't know these answers. I'm asking you to pull out the crystal ball, but what tight end do you think leads the team in snaps the rest of the way?
It's funny you asked that right now because like I said, literally just left the facility. We got the assistant coaches today. Just talking to Arthur Smith some, talking to Alfredo Roberts. Obviously Darnell is an impressive human being. That's for their size and what he can do and everything, no matter what. But we've had him for 3 years, right? And so is something kind of more clicking for him? Are they trusting him more? But I definitely, at this moment, just coming out of these conversations, definitely feel as if Darnell Washington is going to play a lot more, certainly than he had his first two seasons, and will be, and we've seen it even up and before this last game to a point, but be more a part of the offense going forward. I think Aaron Rodgers has a trust and a connection with him too. That kind of surprised me. Maybe I don't know why. You would think as a quarterback, even more of, John Smith has a long history of being a receiving threat and a dynamic threat, and Freiermuth has a history, a reliable, good tight end. But I just felt like, and you feel like when you hear Aaron Rodgers talk about Darnell too, that there's a trust there. So I don't even know. Is it going on a limb and saying I wouldn't be put this way. I certainly would not be surprised at all if it is Washington going forward, and maybe over the 13 game sample size. Yeah, I think because the other two guys they're not the same. I'm not saying at all that they're the same player, Johnny Smith and Freiermuth, but they're closer to the same player than they are to Darnell Washington, right? So
there's nobody like Washington.
Yeah,
right. He's the outlier.
There is, but they all play in the NBA.
Right.
Yeah. So just because for that reason alone, I think there might be a little bit of split the division of labor other ways, and again. I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, certainly the raw production was better in the running game than it had been all season, and I don't think that's a coincidence either that necessarily that Washington was out there as much as he was.
No, certainly not, and with Spencer Anderson as well too, and that what Matt and I are now calling the corned beef package that we're bringing back from Ireland. Feel free you can steal that one, Buzz. All right, first one's for free, next one's going to cost you. But man, what I think one of the more encouraging parts of all that was, I don't think any of us saw that coming from Kenneth Gainwell. I think we all liked him as an addition. We all thought he would make plays in this offense. But 25 total touches, 19 carries, 6 receptions, 99 yards on the ground, well over 100 yards all-purpose, the 2 touchdowns. That, to me, was a very encouraging development in the wake of the absence of Jaylen Warren.
And, Chris, to expand on that, if we assume Warren's ready to go after the bye, do you think that becomes more of a closer to a committee when they're fully healthy as opposed to Warren just being the bell cow?
Yeah, well, you remember week one, Gainwell outplayed him anyway. That was the first game
Yeah.
of the season coming out of camp and everything. So especially now that I was kind of bullish on Gainwell from the beginning. However, I have been blown away every time. Week one him playing more, and like I just referenced, playing more than Warren. And I didn't think of all things. And you know what? You wonder if it was almost a happy accident when the point where, I'm sure when the Steelers drafted Caleb Johnson and all the way up till maybe mid-August, we're envisioning, hey, if something happens to Warren, Caleb Johnson is going to be the bell cow. He's going to be the first and second down back guy. That's probably what the plan was, right? I mean, they drafted him high, and that was, the hope that he'd blow people away and everything, and he'd couldn't keep him off the field, and especially if Warren wasn't going to play. And I don't think that I don't speak for them, but I don't think that they envisioned Gainwell getting 25 touches in a game and, getting first and second down carries and as often as he did this past game, even with an injury to Warren. So he's been good at everything they've asked him to do. He's showing he can be more than just a niche back, and he had that reputation, a very good one, a very good team, of course, with Philadelphia over the past 4 years, and he it seemed like he made plays. A lot of times he's in the game. I don't think anybody thought, and judging by the market and what they signed him for, I guess probably nobody else really thought it. But yeah, it's kind of hard to keep him off the field now. He made play on special teams, right? He's just been a playmaker all the way around in the passing game and things like that. So yeah, I would think it's probably more like that, where it would be 1-1A or 1B or however you want to put it.
So Calvin Austin's injured. I don't have a feeling for how long or what. Maybe you do. I don't know what knowledge we have of that injury, but they're obviously entering a bye week. They're 3-1. I think that you have to be looking at this team like they're very, very much in the playoff mix, if not division champion mix. I know that there's a lot of football ahead. Is this an opportunity or potentially the time to add another receiver?
Yeah, it's I will say one thing, that during the day, and who knows, like you said, I don't know for sure. I got the impression that Austin maybe wasn't as serious or as bad as long as it could be out as was thinking maybe the last 48 hours or so, and we'll see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of hard. Week 4, early October, what is like a trade market situation at that point? I don't know what. They have Isaiah Hodgins on the practice squad. I guess he'd be the next man up to get a hat, probably.
Not to interrupt, and Wes and I are going to go around the league later, but it is pretty clear that there are some teams at this point that maybe had high hopes when the season started that they're shot. It's easier to talk trade with the Saints now than when they're 0-0
the Raiders.
or the Raiders or right. It just seems like the timing might add up a little bit better.
And that's true. And we've learned over the past few years. During that deadline week, for sure, there's been a lot more trades the past 5 years than ever were. I feel like there were seasons, a decade ago, you might get a deadline with no trades, or or at least maybe just something, no big name trades or starting caliber trades. There would be some weeks or some seasons, and like last year, there were a lot. And so maybe I just need to reevaluate. Maybe teams are being more open-minded to that kind of thing, where an early October trade, maybe I'm just thinking over history, but there might be teams and scenarios where that is. Yeah, I especially though, because you've talked, I think you guys, I'm sure you have, whether with me or not, but that a worry with the Steelers going into the season would have been if something happens to DK.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, nothing's happened to DK yet, but now the next worst thing could happen.
Yeah.
Something happened to Calvin. So now something's happened to DK. Then if you thought it was a concern before, if there's no Calvin and no DK.
Don't you put that evil out there, Chris.
No, I don't mean to. You guys are the luckily Irish. You just came from Ireland, so I think you counteract whatever I can bring in terms of negative juju or whatever it might be. But listen, last year they finally brought in a wide receiver at the deadline. It was always known when there's smoke, there's fire. They've been looking at wide receivers over the entire, July and August and September here early on. So they've been aware of it. Now they're down a guy who's probably one of the most pleasant surprises, I think, on the team in terms of, I didn't know if he could be a viable number 2. And I think Calvin Austin's had about as good a season so far as I expected him to have. So they're down a guy like that now. So they're already, the receivers. So I'm sure if something comes along, that they'll be hesitant to make a move.
Chris, last one I've got for you. Man, it was good to see Deshaun Elliott back and doing his thing on Sunday. Matt and I kind of talked about this. Like, he's not going into the Hall of Fame like T.J. Watt and Jalen Ramsey, Cam Hayward, all those guys going to be in that conversation. But I think his value to this defense and to that secondary is undeniable.
Yeah, I was about to say something to the effect of, but it's almost it's like almost like backhanded compliments. I don't want to term like he's a glue guy, right? Because the glue but he's better than a glue guy because he's more productive or more noticeable. Sure. I don't know how to put that. You know what I'm saying? But he is a glue guy in terms of keeping things together. He just makes play. It's kind of crazy, to see the impact he made when he came back. And the way he, some of the impact he made last season, and when they brought him on, he been on was his fourth team or his third team in 3 years, and it just kind of seemed like, okay, here's a nice depth piece. Okay, it'll work out, and what he's been able to do, and the impact he had in that game. And you're right, all the other guys you talk about, and everybody's making, like I said, the last two games, it seemed like everybody in the defense has made a splash play or two, and he comes back his first game back, and just even that tackle, what was it on the 4th and 1, that might have been a touchdown. Once Mason broke to the line, the 4th and 1 I don't even know what was it, second quarter. He made a tackle there in the open field that maybe Mason breaks free, and then a couple plays later the Steelers got an interception out of it. So he's, and again, in terms of you can tell the respect he has kind of from his, and again, all those guys are big names. A lot of his peers in that secondary are big names who have lengthier resumes and are paid more than him or whatever. But you can tell they all have respect for him. And yeah, he is. He's been one of the best little in terms of under the radar free agent signings the Steelers have made over the recent years here.
Chris Adamski, make sure you're checking out his work in the Trib, listening to him on the Steelers Blitz on the Steelers Audio Network. Buzz, thank you for the time as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Take care, guys.
You as well. Chris Adamski there, kind enough to give us some of his time on a very busy day. Matt, when we return, what do you say we go around the league? Because there is
a lot going on.
In the AFC North, there is a lot going on.
Big injuries. There's a lot happening in the league right now.
You said to me a couple times while we were in Dublin, because this is something we'll peel back the curtain on the other side. We got to get to break. But watching the NFL in Dublin is very difficult.
That was my least favorite part of the trip, baby.
Watching college football in Dublin.
You had some WVU issues, right?
Oh, my gosh, I had some everything issues because it was a great Saturday slate of college football games that we wanted to watch as well, too. But Matt said to me many times that, I can't afford to miss a whole weekend of NFL action.
No, I can't just vanish like nothing happened in week 4.
And especially this week 4, because there was a lot going on. We will discuss all of that when we return on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it's The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. A wild week 4, certainly for everybody in Steelers land. But, Matt, it was a wild week 4 across the National Football League.
Yeah.
Some big, surprising results. Hey, hand up if you had Jackson Dart beating the undefeated Chargers on your bingo card.
Yeah.
I mean, a devastating injury to Tyreek Hill. Another loss for the Ravens, and maybe some rough injuries in there.
Yeah. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, but Matt, let's start in the AFC North and kind of keep it tied to the Steelers. You mentioned this a little bit just a minute ago with our buddy Chris Adamski. The Steelers are in a great position right now.
Great position.
I mean, the Browns, we all knew that this season was going to be tough for them.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense is good to very good.
It might be the best in the league. We'll start talking Browns soon. So I hope everyone just doesn't think the Steelers are going to steamroll the Browns, because that game might be 13-9, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Or 9-13.
Yeah.
The day that WVU won the last backyard brawl.
I
got to tell you what.
I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice little shove it back up their backside. I mean, obviously that result was not nearly as big as 13-9.
No, but it's a nice coincidence. I like it.
It's also a nice coincidence that after blowing a 10-point lead to their biggest rivals, the Pitt Panthers blew a 17-point lead in their first ACC game. I digress. The Browns, we all have kind of known what their situation is, and they're turning to Dylan Gabriel, it sounds like.
Oh, is that happening?
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
I knew that time was going to come pre-Steeler game.
No doubt. And Cincinnati, of course, in the absence of Joe Burrow, it's just difficult to navigate for what he is and what he means to them.
I don't know how much you watched of that game, but I mean, I watched a lot of Bengals.
I watched the first half
Vikings.
before I passed
it's
out.
Hard to stay
I was
up,
exhausted.
Don't get me wrong.
I was like the Tom and Jerry cartoon of like taping my eyelids to my forehead
Clockwork
to
Orange.
try and stay
Yeah.
exactly right. Clockwork Orange. Too.
That's a little nastier, but yeah, they're horrible. I mean, I threw this out on Twitter deep into that game after watching them get destroyed by the Vikings defense. That might be the worst offense in the league. And last year they probably were the worst defense in the league and don't look noticeably better. I mean, like. They could pick in the top 5 this year.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that bad. And I could
really
see
is.
Chase getting upset and Higgins and Hendrickson. And I'm not predicting on maybe coaching changes. Like
they might be the first team to make a coaching move.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really hard to watch. Like they can't even line up.
They're spiraling.
Penalties and they don't run the ball at all.
I know you have said this. I have said this. We don't love saying nice things about the Steelers division rivals. But my goodness, the way that team looks before Joe Burrow got there, what they were as a franchise, the heights that he took them to, Super Bowl and AFC championship game in back-to-back years, which they hardly ever do.
Right.
And, man, when he's out, there's just they unravel. He
One of my best friends
so
sent me
much
a
to
text
the
last night and
franchise.
said, Joe Burrow should be the MVP for how bad the Bengals look.
Like, legitimately.
I mean, like, I know what you're saying, right?
Legitimately.
He's that important, and what a superstar he is. But he ain't around.
And I think we all knew that was going to be the case the moment he went out.
Yeah.
But
like,
man,
I would pick the Browns to beat the Bengals right now in a neutral stadium.
Just because their defense could.
They're good at something.
They wouldn't even win 13-9, Matt. They'd win 9-3.
3-0, right.
3-0,
2-0. Score on defense.
A safety.
Yeah,
they get a safety on
right,
defense, 2-0, like a good baseball score.
Or how the Steelers started against the Vikings in the first Super Bowl.
In the first Super Bowl, that's exactly right. Someone said, too, I forget who told us this pregame, but it's the first time these Steelers and Vikings logos have been painted in an end zone since Super Bowl IX.
Okay.
Because I guess in the London game there was something different. They didn't just have the two team. Because I was like, wait, didn't it happen in London? No, they had different end zones, I guess, for that game over there. But Matt, I think the biggest shocker, we all knew the Browns were going to struggle this year, despite what the defense could and is. Could become and has become. I think again, the moment that Joe Burrow was ruled out for 3 months, we all knew what that was going to look like. But I don't think any of us saw this coming with the Baltimore Ravens.
No.
Not only are their results gone the wrong way, they are now getting decimated with key injuries as well.
So when we talk Browns next week, they'll play another game. They're going to play the Vikes. None of these teams have byes. So I think it's really interesting in this division in particular, Steelers aside, where these teams are contrary to preseason expectations. Like, most people thought the Browns and Saints were going to be in competition
Picking
for
in the
first
top
overall.
5. Yeah.
But I'm going to say, I promised you when we preview Browns, a lot of positive things. Like Judkins and Schlesinger and Gray. I'm like, they're young guys. Okay, maybe even the quarterbacks look okay after a week. Who knows? But at least I can see Browns fans having something to get excited about. And I get this out of the way right now. Myles Garrett might be the best football player on the planet right now. You thought he was good. I know everybody hates him here, and people
you're absolutely
crush
right.
me for this.
He's
but
incredible.
He's better now than he's ever been. Like, he leveled up, which is insane. It's like Lawrence Taylor out there right now. Anyway, so there's actually good things going on in Cleveland, but they have such a low ceiling. I mean, it's going to be a long year. We know that. Talked about the Bengals a lot. Way worse than I even would have expected, minus Burrow. I thought they might be okay. I mean, if we start, usually Tuesday's power rank days, I don't even know if we'll do it this week, but they would be really, really low on my list for what they look like. The Ravens, I thought were going to be the best team in the league. Like if my preseason power ranks, they were one.
Yep.
Now, they have a lot of things going against them too, but it's mostly injury related. So they can obviously bounce back. Don't get me wrong. But even going, early in the season, tough games, they were losing at both lines of scrimmage, which is not Ravens-like. And kind of like the Eagles, but less, even more so, they're designed to play with a lead.
Yes.
And where I'm going with this is there's a lot of snaps now that Henry's not even on the field. Like Henry's only eclipsed, I think, 50 yards in week 1. That's Derrick Henry.
That's right.
And maybe he's
some
losing
bad fumbles too.
Right, bad fumbles, and I'm not even blaming him entirely. Maybe he's losing a step. That's someday it's going to happen. I thought it was going to happen for the last 4 years, and it hasn't. But they've been losing up front, and I'd never loved their O-line, but they've always made it work because they have Ricard and the two best ball carriers you're going to see. But that's not happening. They're not playing with leads. This Lamar injury is odd. I don't know how much you saw of it.
It didn't look like anything serious, and
No.
kind of tossed his helmet, and that was that.
It almost was like, I'm done playing today.
That's I typically, Matt, I'll tell you, I don't know if you and I have had this discussion. I think
I'm not saying he quit.
Everybody who does this for a living has certain narrative things that drive them crazy. I hate it when people call NFL players soft.
Oh.
Like, okay.
Live 4 minutes in their shoes.
Yeah, you go out there and get in a car crash 70 times a game and tell me they're soft, right? Another one of those things is I hate it when people just, that guy quit, that guy gave up, that guy, like, you don't know their headspace. But, man, it's hard not to feel that way after what we saw at Arrowhead Stadium. Yeah,
and I bet Juan Thornhill will tell you that the Browns defense quit about this time last year, too.
There are certainly, it definitely does happen.
It's just harder to put your best foot forward. The term business decision
is out there for a reason.
Yes, and they're all human beings, and frankly, I thought this was the most energetic game the Steelers played. I mean, Mr. Rooney talked to him. I mean, like, you can understand why. We're all people,
We've been waiting 50 years for this game, boys. You better go win it.
Like, I bring up the Browns because their defense was also good last year until the offense is like, I need something. And it looks like Lamar was fed up, and maybe they were going to pull him anyways at that point. The game was pretty shot. But he goes over to the sidelines, throws his helmet, sits there, and I didn't see any trainers working on his leg. I mean, like, I'm not saying he's faking it. I just don't know that he was planning on playing the rest of the way. But needless to say, if he misses any time, they're a flat-out below-average team because Cooper Rush stinks and doesn't fit their system at all. I'm shocked that that's their choice for the backup. I mean, like, at least when they had Huntley's digressed since then, but at least it made sense. You could still do your stuff.
He was a Lamar-type piece.
Yeah. And you could still give it to Henry and distribute the football. I don't understand Rush being their backup behind a bad line, playing behind. I mean, that's going to be a tough thing to overcome if Lamar misses any time. It wouldn't shock me at all if he's fine.
Sure.
I don't know. Who knows? But the defense needs to be brought up because they're getting pushed around the line of scrimmage, which you just don't see.
You don't see it.
And now their best defensive player or best defensive lineman who's been out, Matabuke, is way better than most people might think. I mean, he's a top 10 defensive tackle all day long, but he's out for the year. And they also lost Pierce to retirement last year, who's this big and never moves. And they,
Marlon Humphrey's hurt now too.
And Wiggins is hurt. Like, there's other ripple effects in the back seven, but it starts up front. And I don't know if it's going to get better up front on either lines. Right. I mean, it might get worse.
Their offensive line, I think, could certainly get better because they've got the pieces there. But,
but it wasn't my favorite unit to begin with. No. The guards and.
And Matt, I mean, they've got Houston this week who won a game and feeling better about themselves. Their best performance of the season. They're still desperate to keep stacking some wins. Then they've got the Rams. One of the better. I don't think one of the elite teams in the NFC, but
the Rams are better than the Ravens right now.
One of that second-tier teams in the NFC, certainly. I mean, even if they split those, they'll be 2-4. I mean, they are. If Lamar is healthy, they could certainly turn this thing around. But this has been about as close to a disaster of a start, other than maybe like a significant injury to Lamar that they could have had in the month of September.
Yeah, and losing to good teams is excusable, but 1-3 isn't kind to percentage to make playoffs, things like that.
It is not.
Like, I wanted to bring this up in hour one. The percentage of going to the playoffs since 2000 when you're 3-1 is basically like 2/3 of those teams go. 2-2, it's like 38%. So like just that win for the Steelers. I know it's only one win, but at 3-1 is, if you lose, you're 3-2, you're still winning. I know some of this is just nonsense, but
you're right. There's a reason those numbers are the way that they are.
They are, and 1-3 is unkind.
Even in this 17 game now era, even in the extra wild card game era. It's incredibly unkind. The other side of that for the Steelers, I had this in my notes for us to get to at some point this week. ESPN FPI. Okay. Steelers now have a 71% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was about 54% last week. They now have a 7.3-point chance to make it to the Super Bowl, which is up from 3.5% last week.
Right.
So just a one win in that month of September to get to 3-1 makes a huge difference.
And I'm sure the Chargers went down, the Ravens went down.
Totally.
Your opponents to make the Super Bowl are helping you, at the moment.
Yes, and I wonder what the percentage for the Steelers to win the division now is. I bet you it has to be at least 50%.
Well, I know in Vegas odds the leader is the Ravens.
Still,
which shocks me a little. I mean,
I guess they're banking on Lamar being fine.
I get it, but it shocks me a little. But they're still the leader in the clubhouse. Like the Bills, if you bet on the Bills to win division, you get like no money. I mean, like you make like a penny.
No chance.
Right.
You gotta bet $10 to get $5 back probably on the Bills to win the division. Matt, just a couple other things here. Crazy one in overtime between the Packers and the Cowboys that ends tied at 40 between Micah Parsons and his old employer.
So this one, I didn't see the second half. This was a perfect example of being in Ireland being crazy.
This game started at 1:30 in the morning, Dublin time.
Yes. And I had planned, we had a flight 7 o'clock Dublin time. And obviously we got up. I mean, I slept in a little bit before we went over to Croak. But my plan was, I can't just not watch games, so I'm going to come back after the Steeler game, watch Red Zone in the bus on the way home, which I did, which was cool. Watch the 4 o'clock games in my room, record some stuff, watch this one, and maybe stay up all night and just get on the bus. And by the time Sunday football ends,
sure.
I couldn't figure out a way to watch Sunday Night Football.
You can't find anything. You cannot find American sports. Your apps don't work. They're all blocked.
It was nuts.
It's not on TV.
So I found this weird version. Like if you're watching this behind us, somebody was playing the game with like this logo in the middle. So I'm laying there in bed with my glasses on, just kind of listening, watching, end up dozing off at halftime. So I didn't catch the second half. So be it. That's pretty much all I missed. I'll take that. I end up getting an extra hour sleep as opposed to 0. I got an hour and a half. But crazy game. I mean, Green Bay is a little rattled too. You tie a not so great Cowboys team. You got beat by the Browns. We talked power rankings. They were 1 or 2, substantially here for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super worried, but Dallas is interesting. Dak's good. This is kind of like their Giants game, where it's just high scoring. Whoever has the ball last wins or ties. Pickens blows up. They're interesting,
Yeah, absolutely. That one was.
The offense is good.
That one was wild. The offense is good, but their defense is
really bad.
Rough. Is really rough.
Really bad.
Also wanted to run by you.
One thing I want to do, I was about to mention it too. Maybe like next Monday or Tuesday, before we really get into the Browns, let's re-pick who we think is going to end up in the playoffs.
I love that.
Yeah.
We'll do some bigger picture stuff like we were saying. Let's re-pick division winners and who's going to get into the wild cards, and maybe we can even do like MVP and defensive player of the year and that kind of stuff.
I don't know if we'll have time this week. I mean, things are super condensed this week.
Super condensed, and we still do need to get to some of our regular power rankings and stuff like that this week, but we will have plenty of time, especially
and
earlier.
we'll talk more about like college quarterbacks.
We were talking about that. We're going to do, because we missed that last week. We'll do some beefier college football and college quarterback conversations. There's some new names into the forefront. Hello, Dante Moore from Oregon. My goodness. Speaking of crazy ones,
some of those guys
double
don't look as good now as they used
Happy
to.
Valley.
Yeah.
But
I saw none of that. That was impossible to watch too.
I left the Temple Bar district of Dublin Saturday because I wanted to go back to my hotel and watch college football, watch the WVU game. Glad I didn't. We got smoked by Utah. I listened to the whole thing on the audio stream. A lot of big games: Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, Oregon. You cannot watch them in Dublin.
It's nuts.
Your ESPN app's blocked. Your Fox app's blocked. I had my buddy text me his DirecTV login. That's blocked as well.
I tried that,
VPNs are the only way to do it, and I wasn't just going to go to the effort to do that just for one day.
I don't know what a VPN is because I'm old, but
you can change your computer's so you could have tricked your computer into thinking that you're still you're still located in Pennsylvania.
Because even like NFL Plus, it told me
blocked.
Doesn't work there. I'm like, why'd I pay for this? Of course I use it every other week.
I understand the frustrations of some of our
Netflix didn't work.
Netflix doesn't work. None of your streaming apps, anything work. And again, they don't. And
I wasn't going to spend money to do it for one game.
No, right. Like they have Sky Sports over there, but that's about it. They don't have the saturation of full-time sports networks like we do either.
No, I thought maybe even Sunday football might be on TV.
Nope.
Like going through the guide. Nope, no chance.
Found some Gaelic football.
Yeah, there's a little bit, right?
Found
Yeah,
some
yeah.
soccer, but nothing.
That
from
part
here.
I won't miss.
No, absolutely. That was one of the things that was a bit of a bummer, and I understand why. Like, the guys that we know, Mick and Greg, and some of our friends through the Steelers that do content stuff that we've met that are from Ireland, always talk about how difficult it is to watch American sports out there.
I just meant you had to get up at weird times.
I met another.
It's more than that.
That same guy that I was telling you that I talked to, the Bengals fan.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so you're a big NFL fan? I was like, do you you watch hockey, you watch baseball, you watch basketball, you follow any other American sports? And he was like, no, it's impossible. He's like,
too hard.
He's like, it's hard enough for me to follow the NFL.
I bet NFL's the easiest to access.
He said it
compared
is.
To hockey,
he said it is, but right. And he said, and for at least the NFL, the 1:00 games start like 6:00 over here. It's perfect.
I can manage that.
He's like, the hockey and the basketball games that are all at 7:00, 7:30 at night, they start at 1:30 and 1:00 in the morning. Yeah. So that was maybe the one thing that we didn't enjoy about our time in Dublin.
Yeah, I really highly disliked it, to be honest with you. But such is life. We got through it.
I
feel like I have a pretty good feel of what happened in week 4, though, around the league.
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I saw you grinding it away when we were on the plane ride coming back. I was watching Shawshank Redemption. Matt was doing real work.
My best, yeah. Slept a little bit.
Kind of tells you about the difference between the two of us. When we return on the other side, here's a teaser for you. Matt has a great story
made my day.
Of an encounter with a Steelers legend at the airport.
Yep.
We'll discuss that and a couple, maybe one or two other Irish anecdotes before we get up out of here on the other side. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It is The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Final segment of The Drive here on a Victory Tuesday. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. Matt, all throughout the week, we'll be sprinkling in some cool stories, some cool anecdotes about both of our first times in Ireland. An incredible experience for everybody. We'll kind of bob and weave between real football conversation and some fun behind-the-curtain stuff of the things we got to do and witness and see in Dublin. But when we landed back at the Pittsburgh International Airport yesterday, you had something pretty stinking cool happen to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell the story because it was the timing was awesome. Like I mentioned, I really enjoyed this trip. I think you did too. I think everybody involved did. And there were a lot of really cool moments. And I'm going to throw one quick story out too that I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, but we were on the air and they told us, hey, we're going to get a Steeler legend, at the bar. And we knew who it was going to be. And frankly, we were like coming down the wire. We're like, I don't think we're going to get him.
I'm texting the Steelers behind the scenes people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, tell me who this is going to be because
it'd be nice to know who it is.
As the radio host, I mean, like to know who we're about to interview. And we've got like 10 minutes left in the show.
I thought we weren't going to get him, which often happens in radio. And whoever shows up gets there late or whatever. And it was Marquise Pouncey. And it was like, whoa. Awesome. And that place went nuts. And he was super cool. And it signed a million things afterwards and was
slugged some Guinness with us at the end of the segment.
So that was awesome.
It's on the podcast from our Saturday show. If you go back in the podcast feed, last hour, last segment, you can hear the Pouncey madness. It was out of control.
Erupted.
Out of control.
And met a lot of cool people, met celebrities. We were exposed to a lot of cool stuff. I mean, from what I understand, Bill Murray was there.
Friggin' Murray was there.
But anyway, we land. I go to tell my personal story, and I go get my bag, and we're exhausted.
We're all gassed.
It's finally over.
Just on a plane for 7.5 hours after 4 days of work and play,
and not much sleep,
bad sleep, plenty of Guinness, as people can imagine.
Sure, why would you not? And I pick up my bag, and off the thing, and I'm like, I'm home. I don't have to wait for anything else now. That's the last step of things you have when travels. Like, I got to wait for this thing to land. Then I got to wait for it to get off the plane. Then I got to wait to get my bag. So I grab that thing saying, I am home free. I can just sprint to my car, sprint home, see the fam, whatever. I'm finally done. I get a tap on the shoulder, and I'm like, no. And that sounds really conceited, and I don't mean it to be.
But I think everybody gets it in that situation.
Yes. I assumed it was someone on the plane, and to be frank, the people on the plane were money people. There were some
high rollers on the charter with us.
I loved all of our interactions in the bar, but it wasn't some annoying drunk bugging you. I knew at that situation it was going to be somebody that was going to be worth talking to, but I don't want to because I'm done. And I loved all the people coming up to us. Love the show. Big fan of your work.
It was great. It was awesome.
I'm not
to
at all
anybody who
complaining
said
about
hello,
that. Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
But at this point, you just want to get home.
I just wanted to get home. And I didn't want to tap on the shoulder and, hey, what'd you think of this guy or blah, 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 blah. And I turn around, and it's John Stallworth, who I didn't realize I was told was on our plane there and must have been on our plane there. And older gentleman wearing a Hall of Fame zip up, and I'm like, that's John freaking Stallworth. And he says, hey, you enjoy everything? And I'm like, I had a great time. How about you? Oh, I had a great time. Blah, blah. He's like, I just wanted to take time to tell you how much I really enjoy your work. Keep it up. I'm like,
John freaking Stallworth just told me he's a fan.
Knocked me over, right? I'm like, I can't believe he knew who I was, and that's all. I didn't want to bug him. I made it pretty clear I was a fan of his work as well. And I happened, strangely enough, on this show, compared Justin Jefferson to John Stallworth. I think that they're very similar. I didn't know Stalls was going to be on the plane. But once in a while, especially with this team, and you mentioned I was born in 1973, so any super Steeler is still, whoa.
Heck yeah.
Like it was my dad's favorite player. I mean, how could it not be? And it was like, wow, John Stallworth respects my work. I'm like, perfect way to end
cherry on top of the whipped cream on the Sunday that was.
I use this all the time. I was a creative writing major in college, basically because it was the path of least resistance to get a degree. But if I would have turned that in as the end of my short story, and John Stallworth tapped me, I'm like, this isn't even believable, dude. You got to cut that chapter out. That ain't happening. But what a great way to end a great trip.
When you do this for a living, sometimes it can get a little mundane and a little,
like any job, I'm sure,
oriented.
Right? I'm sure dentists think the same thing or whatever.
Moments like that, it's like you're 15 years old all over again, and this is what it's all about.
Yeah, Mel Blount came on the drive at training camp 5 years ago, and Dale would make fun of me like, you had a fan moment there. I'm like, yes, yes,
absolutely did.
Why would I not?
When we get to interview Santonio Holmes at the combine, usually when he's out there, for me that's like. Santonio in the back of the end zone, toe tap. I'm 18 years old, about to graduate high school. Like that's one of my.
I think you saw Troy the one time.
Troy. Max introduced me to Troy at training camp coming out of the cafeteria a few months ago. Yeah. If that stuff doesn't get you excited, if that stuff
then
doesn't
you're in the wrong business,
make you turn into a teenager again, you're in the wrong business.
Especially depending on what age you are. I was exposed to Stallworth my whole life.
Yes.
This guy was.
I think I was like 12 when the Steelers drafted Troy. 13.
You
know what
perfect,
I mean?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Like Ben Roethlisberger was on our flight, and that didn't change me as much. I'm like, I was an adult when I got exposed to Roethlisberger. It's still cool. He's awesome. He did a bunch of stuff over there, but that's Stalls. I mean, come on.
It's incredible.
I had a poster on my wall of him,
Such a cool story. You texted me right after it happened. You were so giddy about it. You just had to tell somebody who would appreciate it.
Exactly. Because I was going to be like, oh man, I don't want to have one more conversation, but I'm like, I'm not going to keep his time
for half an hour and talk to this guy if he wants to. That is fantastic.
But it was the perfect cherry on top for me.
Absolutely. That's so cool. That's a great story. We will have more stories of some fun things that happened in Dublin. I got to talk about the Guinness factory at some point.
Yeah, you should tell people about it. I didn't get there, but man, it sounds incredible. We'll tell more. I'm sure we told Dublin stories all week.
We'll tell tons of stories for the rest of the week. But that will do it for us for today. Big thanks to John Stallworth for making Matt's day yesterday.
Maybe he's listening.
If he is, we love you, Stalls. Keep it up. Big thank you to Chris Adamski for joining us earlier. Our producer, Tyler V, Mr. TV, for putting together the YouTube show. As always, for Matt Williamson, I'm Wes Uhler. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, you know where to find us. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. It's Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.